Good afternoon, our Child Development Associate course for infants and toddlers. I hope you're doing well today, and we're still in the communication chapter. Today's section is supporting oral language development. And our objective for today is to learn methods of supporting the oral language development of infants and toddlers. So we're going to start with the basics. And I found the best resource, I think, on serve and return or building give and take communication skills with infants and toddlers at the Center for the Developing Child at Harvard University. I'm going to show you, I put the link here on the slide, and I'm going to take you to this link so you can see the resource for yourself. So I'm going to escape out. And I've already pulled it up here on my web browser. And like I said, this is from the Center on the Developing Child from Harvard University. And it talks about serve and return as being what actually shapes the architecture of the brain. It talks about being a responsive caregiver. And they have an absolutely lovely video here that I'm going to send you the link to, this whole page. I'd really like it if everybody took a look at this video and saw how the 5 steps work into a responsive relationship with a child. So it talks about even some questions and answers. So what happens if you're not always 100% on your serve and return? Talking about educational toys versus an adult doing serve and return and which is more valuable. They have handouts for families. Overall, I thought this was a lovely resource. So following up on that resource, we have the 5 steps of serve and return. So the first part they have is share the focus. This is the same thing as shared attention, or to think of it another way, as you and the infant are focused down on the exact same thing at the exact same time. You're noticing carefully what the baby is intrigued by. Perhaps the baby will point to it. Perhaps the baby will gesture or just brighten up with their facial expression, or for a really young baby, kick their feet and wave their arms. The gaze usually focuses in on what they're attending to. So the first step, share the focus of what the child's noticing. Notice what the child is noticing. Number 2, support and encourage. So a couple different ways that you can share with the child that you see what they see and that you want them to continue exploring or doing what they're doing. You can do that by mirroring. Mirroring is, so if the baby gasps and giggles, you would also gasp and giggle with a really exaggerated expression. If the child is smiling, you smile. If the child looks shocked, you look shocked. That's mirroring. So your face becomes a mirror to what the child's face is doing. Gesturing. So if the child is pointing at something, you could also point at it. You could touch it. You could nod your head towards it. You know, kinds of things that show that, yes, I am here with you in this moment, and we should carry on with this. Speaking. You can support and encourage by saying what the child is doing. So if they are pointing at a robin's nest, you can say, "Oh my, you're pointing at the robin's nest." All right, number 3, name it. So in our last session, we talked about language and literacy development, and there is a spike in a toddler's development of vocabulary, and they equate that with the same time frame when the child starts asking the names of objects. So you don't have to wait for this to happen. You don't have to wait for the child to become a toddler and say, "What is that?" Usually when the child points, say they are pointing up in a tree, and you want to confirm what they're seeing, you can say, Are you pointing to the robin's nest? Or are you pointing to the branch? Are you pointing to the leaves? Are you pointing to the squirrel? So name it. That gives you an opportunity to overlay vocabulary on the experience. Number 4, take turns back and forth. This is important in that it models to children how a conversation is supposed to happen, where one person talks, then they wait, for somebody to respond. You give that space and wait, and that shows that you value what the child is going to say. It also models how that after you speak, they should respond. You can do this even for nonverbal children, the tiniest of babies. If you're sharing a serve and return, the baby may point at something. You may reach for it, hand it to the baby, and then give the baby a moment to see what they're going to do with it. And then you can respond to that. So they take a turn being interested in something. You respond to what they have indicated. And then it's their turn to do something else. Practicing endings and beginnings. This is really important, especially for when you get children together in groups and want to teach them something. Children can be done with an experience far before an adult can be done with an experience. So notice their cues. Are they starting to wiggle and wander away? In that case, it's probably time to end your activity and follow up and see what else we can do next. Practicing beginnings. So after they've wandered away, they're going to find something new to engage with, and that's an opportunity to start again. This next section is about parentese versus baby talk. And my source is an article written up in Science Daily in which they reference a 2018 study where iLab's researchers coached a group of parents in how to speak parentese with their 6-month-old child. And they had 2 groups, one group that spoke parentese to their 6-month-old and one group who did not. And at the age of 14 months, they surveyed and found out that the 18-month-old children whose parents spoke parentese had about 100 vocabulary words versus the 60 vocabulary words among the children in the control group who did not speak parentese. So what is parentese? And what is baby talk? I'm sure everybody has some idea of what baby talk is. It gets made fun of quite a bit in the media, and it's usually with an adult babbling in a really exaggerated, happy manner to a child. So here we have an adult in the picture that just looks absolutely thrilled to be talking with that baby. And let me give you an example of baby talk. Oh, Jijobo, you're so sweet, Jijobo. Oh, who did it, Jijobo? Baby talk. Where you're copying the babbling and sounds the baby's making and making up some of your own in a high-pitched, pleasant voice that shows you're engaged. Parentese is often confused with baby talk, and it uses the same happy expression, the same abundance of joy that baby talk uses, but the parent will use real language. And they will exaggerate their tones, just like you do in baby talk, and they'll elongate vowels. The point of parentese is to not only engage happily with the child, but to exaggerate the parts of speech so it's easier for the baby to understand. So, for example, the baby's pointing at the robin in the tree again. Oh, do you see the robin in the tree? The robin? It's in the tree. Oh, look at that pretty robin in the tree. That's parentese. And according to the research, parentese is the way to go to get your child to babble more and produce more words than they will with you using baby talk. Parallel talk, or sportscasting. So, as we mentioned earlier, babies do not speak to you back and forth verbally the way an adult will. And if you're a teacher in an infant classroom, things can get one-sided in your conversations. And some infant teachers might choose to pull back from interacting with the children a bit because really, what is there to talk about? They see similar toys every day, similar experience. So what new and exciting thing is the caregiver going to use to fill up the day holding their part of a conversation? Sportscasting and parallel talk gives you something to talk about almost all the time. And not only does it give you something to talk about, but it helps support the child's oral language development. You are giving them a model of how to speak, what words can be strung together. You're sharing vocabulary. It's all in the moment. So pretend that you are a sportscaster at a big arena, and that baby is the star athlete. What are they doing? Oh, you're reaching for the blue block, and you're going to stack it on top of the orange block. You made a tower. Or you can describe, you're digging in the dirt. I can see you're making a hole in the dirt. Let's see how deep it goes. Oh, you're sticking the shovel in the dirt again. So, sportscasting. The resource that I pulled for sportscasting is from Teachstone. It is the company that produces the class assessment, and they have a blog here talking about using self and parallel talk to enhance communication skills. On the class assessment, self and parallel talk are ways that the teacher can demonstrate that they are having quality verbal interactions with the children. So this link will be available to you to take a look and see how you can increase your self and parallel talk in a classroom. Self-talk is another way that you can fill up those spaces in conversation in an infant and toddler classroom. So, whereas parallel talk, you are describing what the child is doing as they're doing it, in self-talk, you're describing what you are doing as you're doing it. So with the photo I have here, you can see a baby who is getting her diaper changed. And diaper changing is one of the easiest ways to start doing self-talk if you don't already. So nobody likes to be touched with a cold towel without being warned ahead of time. So self-talk in this situation could be, oh, I'm going to take off your diaper. Oh, looks like you have some poop in your diaper. I'm going to get a wipe. It's going to be cold. Oh, I'm wiping your bottom. We're going to clean it all up. Now I'm going to put some diaper cream. And now we're going to put on a clean diaper. And now we're going to wash hands together. And I'm going to sit you on the floor. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to clean the changing table. So I'm spraying the soapy water. I'm wiping off the table. So describing what you're doing as you're doing it. Good way to fill up the conversation spaces in a classroom. Provides a verbal scaffold, also provides vocabulary lesson for the children, because odds are you're going to use some words that they don't know yet. And another use for self-talk that they usually don't talk about, but that I have found, is that if you have another teacher in the classroom, perhaps you're the lead and there's a new person in town, self-talk is a way to share what you're doing and the processes you're using in the classroom without overwhelming the person and telling them, you need to do this step, this step, this step. You can talk to the baby sharing it, and later on you can share, these are the steps, but they have already heard you do it a few times. The example I have for this is I once had a lead teacher that would go down the stairs first and then turn around. And she had a student teacher come in and do the same thing without understanding the purpose behind it. The purpose the lead teacher had for going down first and turning around was so she could catch any children and help them balance as they go down the stairs. She did not say that out loud, and the student teacher didn't understand that. So later on, when she turned around, she wasn't expecting the children to need assistance coming down the stairs, and she wasn't prepared for it. So in the future, that teacher would say, "Oh, I'm going to come down the stairs, and now I'm turning around so I can see if anybody's having difficulty balancing. I want to make sure everybody's holding the rail." And that way you can share what you're thinking and why, so that it brings another person on board with the policies in your classroom much more quickly. Repetition or paraphrasing. So this calls back to the first slide we had regarding serve and return. Repetition and paraphrasing requires that you share the focus with the child, and you are able to extrapolate their meaning behind their utterance. So depending on the age of the child, it could be simple single syllable, ba, if they're pointing to a ball or a bottle, and your repetition for that could be, "You'd like a bottle?" And then you would wait for the child to respond to you. Repetition is helpful to develop more sophisticated grammar and vocabulary. So you listen carefully to what the child is saying, and then you rephrase it so that it would fit a more conventional or the English spoken at the center, or whatever language is spoken at your center, if not English. It's also very helpful when you're working with children doing conflict resolution, because then you have two children that are in conflict, and you may ask one child, "What is the problem?" And perhaps that child says, "Truck, mine." Then you would have an opportunity to rephrase it for them. "Are you saying that you were using the truck?" And that gives the child an opportunity to affirm or to try again to get you to understand what they're meaning. When you turn to the second child, you could say, "What is the problem?" The child would say, "No, truck, mine." Say, "Oh, Sylvia believes that she was using the truck first, and you believe that you were using the truck first. So our problem is you both want to use the truck right now." So when you rephrase it like that for the children, it also enhances their ability to understand each other. And you're there as a mediator to interpret, if you will. Extensions or extending. So extending follows most of the time after a paraphrase or a repetition. The resource I found for repetition and extension is through Region 9 HSA, and it looks like the author is John Gunnarsson, 2018. So it shows you the difference between repetitions and extensions. So here is the example they give of a child saying box, and the teacher repeating or rephrasing, "Oh, you're painting the box blue." Or affirming, the child says, "Car, fast." The teacher would respond with, "Yes, your car is going very fast." Here's another affirmation where the child says, "That her dolly," and the teacher would affirm, "That is her dolly." Now an extension is adding extra stuff onto the child's original utterance and meaning to kind of move the conversation along. So the first one where the child says box, the teacher can still respond with, "Oh, you're painting the box blue." And then the teacher looks around at what the child is doing, what the child's intention is in showing it to you, and moves it forward in such a way that they think the child would like to continue with the conversation. So if the child's really into collecting rocks, then a good extension would be, "It's a good box for your rocks." I like here how it does point out providing the space and wait time for a child to respond to you. And then another section of this resource that I found very nice was the differences in an extension. So the extension can either be all about you, and you're either trying to get to the bottom of something or you're trying to quiz the child. So quizzing could be, what color is it? Where did you find it? What shape is it? Color and shape are really big questions. What's it called? What's it called? What sound does it make? So children are able to do a little bit of that with you, but it gets old really fast being quizzed. So another way, and a better way you could do it, was to focus down on what the child's meaning is, focus down on how you can be a sincere talk partner with the child. So if an adult was talking to you and they shared with you that they got some new shoes, you would not immediately say, looking down at the shoes with them, "What color are they?" They'd probably look at you like you were insane. You could say, "I bet you can run really fast in those." So think about what kinds of questions you would like to be asked to share your story. The point is to get the child to want to talk to you and to keep them producing vocabulary and keep them practicing their oral language, because the more opportunities they have to practice oral language with a competent speaker, the better they're going to get at it. All right, so that's the conclusion of oral language development for infants and toddlers. Here's our bibliography if you'd like to look up any of the resources that I used for this presentation. And here are the images that were used as well. I hope everybody has a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.